Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
Welcome back to This Day in Sports History. It's December 21st, and on this day in 1891, basketball was born. A fresh blanket of snow covered Springfield, Massachusetts. A blizzard a few days prior, coupled with a frigidly cold temperature outside, meant folks were mostly stuck inside, and the young men at the YMCA training school were getting restless. The roughhousing in the halls was escalating, tempers were teetering on the edge, and nothing could be said to calm them down. A few activities were attempted. A game of drop the handkerchief, a forerunner to duck, duck, goose, did nothing. How about a modified game of football in the gym? Now, that didn't work either. James Naismith was the new physical education instructor, and he needed to do something, and fast. This 30-year-old Canadian remembered a game he played as a kid called Duck on a Rock, which featured a good-sized rock placed on a large stone with a man guarding it. Others threw their rocks at the placed rock, trying to knock it off. Combining elements of that game along with rugby and lacrosse, he came up with an idea for a new game. He asked the custodian for 2 square boxes, but all the custodian could come up with were a couple of peach baskets. Naismith mounted those peach baskets to the lower rail of the gymnasium's balcony at opposite ends, which happened to be 10 feet off the floor. He cleared everything off the floor, grabbed a soccer ball, divided a group of 18 into 2 teams of 9, and explained the object was to get the ball into the opposing team's basket. That was it. Naismith blew his whistle, and the first game was underway. And that first game was rough. In an interview 48 years later, Naismith said the boys tackled, kicked, and punched each other. One boy was knocked out cold, several had black eyes, and there was one with a dislocated shoulder. There needed to be some rules for this new game, so Naismith sat down and came up with 13 of them. In January of 1892, Naismith's rules for the game he decided to call basketball was published in a newsletter and distributed to YMCAs across the country. It became the fastest-growing sport of all time. Eventually, the bottom of the basket was cut out, and dribbling came along as an accepted way to advance the ball in 1901. So today, let's be thankful for James Naismith's game he invented on this day in 1891. And also for the custodian not being able to find square boxes that day. Long live the peach basket. You can see the original of Naismith's 13 rules. They are on display at the DeBruce Center on the campus of the University of Kansas. I've also put them in the show notes if you would like to check those out. Also on this day, and since we're talking about basketball, in 1981, the longest game in college basketball history was played. Cincinnati beat Bradley 75-73 in 7 overtimes. And yeah, that's a low score for a game that went on for 75 minutes and was tied at 61 at the end of regulation. Of course, this was 4 years before the shot clock was introduced into the college game. That's all for today. If you have a moment, rate and subscribe. And next time you're hanging out with your friends watching the game, let them know you found a new podcast they might enjoy. It will help grow the show. Make sure you check out the show notes, not only for the original 13 rules of basketball, but there are a few other ways you can help out the show. Thanks for listening today, and I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, We're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.